UiPath Solution Management, the new thing into the UiPath to manage all the components together. This is the second video into the solution management, and today we are going to explore the complete interface and what are the things as a developer you should know before you actually design the solution. So today we are going to walk through the complete interface. Into the previous video of the playlist, we have seen what exactly is solution management, how it is different, and how as a developer you would benefit from it. If you are not aware of the basic concept, I would highly recommend you to watch the previous video. I have put the link into the description for your reference. Okay, so with that, let's get started by exploring the solution management from scratch. Okay, I would be doing this into my community edition and I would be showing you live, but I would request you guys to open up your UiPath community account also parallelly and visualize the thing and try to find out the same element into your account as well, so that when you are designing the solution you know what exactly is where. Okay, now the first thing first is we need to go to the cloud account of UiPath and we simply use cloud.uipath.com. okay, it will take us to the cloud account of UiPath, right? This is the place which we have been using for all our development, right? And let me quickly check my account, and if I go to the admin, right, you can see that I am using the community plan, right? So this is the free plan of UiPath. Okay, now to start with the solution management, we have to go to this button which is called UiPath Studio. This is the UiPath Studio web, so I can click on that. Once you are into this page, you will see here you have something which is called create new, and you are getting agentic, agent, RPA, API and the app, right? We can start with anything. So as an RPA developer, I can start with RPA workflow, I can start with an agent, agentic process, and all of that is going to create a solution for me, right? For the simplicity, I'll just go here and I'll say RPA workflow. And you would notice that as soon as I select the RPA workflow, I have my RPA workflow added here, but at the same time I have also got a solution which we have got at the top. Okay, to differentiate it, I'll just make it to solution underscore tbmk. That's my channel name. You can name it anything so that you can identify it, and you can say apply. And this S indicates that now we have created a solution, right? Into the previous video, we have seen that once you have the solution, into the single solution, you can add a lot of different things. For example, I can have RPA workflow. I can simply click on this plus button and I can add an agent, one more RPA workflow, API workflow, escalation, import setting, all of that I can do, right? To visualize that, I would request you guys to just click on this and maybe just add one more RPA workflow, and let's call it, let's say flow underscore 1. Okay, and that is a new RPA workflow. So now you can see that you have two RPA workflows into the same solution, RPA workflow and flow 1. Okay, now this is how you add the things. Now you might be thinking, how do I rename the stuff? So for example, if I want to rename this, you can just right click on this and you would have an option here which is called rename, and then I can just update it to flow underscore 2, and that way it would understand that it is renamed, right? So the first thing is, into the solution management you can add a lot of stuff from here. Okay, so now the first thing is to add a new component to the solution, you have to use this plus button. Okay, the other thing is, once you are designing an RPA automation, let's go to the flow number 1 and into the main workflow, right? So this is the main workflow. During the automation, you would require to create variables and arguments, right? So that's where you would have this panel onto the left of it, which is called the data manager. You click on the data manager and here you can define the variables, input, output, everything, right? So I can just go to the variables, I can create a new variable, right? What is the variable? Let's say my variable type is text. What do you want? I want to call it a new variable. You can provide the description and so on and so forth. You can do it here, right? So this input and output, these are the arguments which are mentioned here, right? So instead of having input argument, this is how the new arguments are defined, and you can always update the direction as well here, in, out and in, out. That is the basics of your RPA, right? So that's where you actually create this stuff. You can actually create the entities as well. You can create the output arguments. All of that you can manage here by clicking on this button, which is the data manager panel. Okay, so now into the solution management, I have a flow. I have this flow. Okay, the other thing is, let's say I want to know more about this flow. You can simply right click on it and you would have all these options which are available, which is you can open this in Studio Desktop, right, which we will see later. You can debug it. You have rename option, and then you also have something which is called properties. So this is the property of the project. So what exactly this project is made for? So you have an option here which is called these properties panel, right? So all the property panel of Studio opens into the right side of the on the right side of the screen, right? So for this project, what is this? So I can just mention this is flow 1, right? And that will add the description to this project. And with that, if you see on the right hand side of the screen, you have something which is called the properties panel. Okay, it's reloading it. So at any point of time, if you want to refer to the properties of the selected element, you just have to go to the right hand side and click on this button, which will open the property panel, and you would see the properties for that. This on the right hand side, the first one is the property panel. Okay, the next thing onto the solution management is this search button, where you can click on this search and you could find any of the resources which is available inside the solution. Okay, the other thing about the solution management is something which you would see, something which is called the defined resources, which simply means that what all resources we have utilized into my solution. So at present, I have all these options available. So as I keep on building my project, as I keep on building my solution, you would see all those assets available here. So today, if I have to know how many processes I have into my solution, I can go to the defined resources and I can see that I only have 2 processes, right? I have not used any assets or anything. That's why this thing is blank. However, let's say I am trying to use something for queues. Okay, so let's go here and try to use something which is called queue, and I say add the queue item. Okay, now as of now I do not have a queue, right? So what I can do is I can click on this, and then I am getting a button here which is called add a resource, which means that I now have an option directly to add a resource without even going to the orchestrator. By the way, if you want to go to orchestrator, you can click on this button and open the orchestrator, right? So I can go here and I say resource, and this complete experience of adding a queue is now available inside my solution explorer itself. How cool is that, right? So you can see here it says debug the configuration. It would be deployed into my solution folder. I'll say all the properties, and this you can change here, recommended properties, and then I can say all the properties. What is the queue name? So let's call it, let's say tbmk underscore queue, which I want to utilize. You want to description, retry, JSON, all of the queue properties which you can get are available here. Once this is done, all you have to do is click on this guy, which is return to workflow. As of now, if you'll see here, if I just click say return to workflow, the queue is created and the same asset is available for you into the queue as well, right? And now this queue, again you can modify it from here. The same concept applies to creating of storage bucket, assets, apps, all of that you can create it, and now you can see that we have a queue which is available. Awesome, right? Once you have utilized a resource, right? So this I have added the queue which I am referring here, tbmk underscore queue. Let's say I do not want this queue now. So into the queues, same way you have something which is called remove from solution, and I say remove, and that will remove the queue, and now you are getting an error saying that this queue is not available. And you would see here the queue column is now blank and we have to remove this activity, right? So that way the defined resources work, right? I would request you guys to try adding assets, maybe just try to use some of the assets into the defined workflow and see how that thing works, and you would be surprised at how easy it was to create assets and all, right? And let me know in the comments if you are able to follow along or not. Okay. Okay, so now the other things which you would see while designing the solution is, you would see that you have the data manager panel, which we have already discussed. You have variables, you have outputs, and then you have something which is called entities, which you can always manage, which are nothing but the data services entities, right? And then you have something which is called the issue panel, also known as the error panel. At any point of time, if you want to see what are the issues you have got, that would be available here, right? So that is the issue panel, also known as the error panel. And then you have something which is called the deployment configuration. So deployment configuration is when I have completed all the projects, now I want to deploy, right? What are the things I need to configure? So if you'll see here, when I click on the flow to, it is showing me that these are the things which I am going to publish, right? If you are okay with that, go ahead and continue. If you are not okay with that, feel free to customize that as well, right? For the flow number 1, it is showing me these are all the configuration which will be deployed, right? So that why this is called the deployment configuration, which is available onto the left side, right? By the way, this deployment configuration will change as per the project which you have added, right? So for example, into my solution, if I today go and add a agent, okay, let's call it agent, right? Now you would see that a agent is created here. It would have definition, evaluation set, evaluators, all of that. I'll just keep everything blank. Now if I go back to my deployment configuration, now what configuration I want to deploy for the agent, that would be available here into the agent. And then you can see that these are the settings which are available for the agents, right? So this you would use once you are done with the deployment and you want to publish the packet to the orchestrator. That's where you are going to use the deployment configuration. Okay. Now, so with that, we have covered this. This is the project panel. You have this issue panel. This is your deployment configuration. If I go to the top ribbon, this you have the undo redo. I hope you guys understood that. If you want to go back to the projects, you can click on this and you will take you back to the home project, right? To reopen it, you simply have to click on it, right? And then you have these things here: debug, configuration, and deploy the solution for debugging. We'll talk about all of this into a later moment, but this is how you can run it. If you want to debug it step by step, you have this button here which is debug step by step. So the solutions will run in a step by step manner, right? And then lastly, you have something which is called publish. This will publish the packet to the orchestrator, right? So we have covered this panel. We have covered the defined resources, the explorer panel, how you can add, remove, all of that, right? This tab, and onto the right hand side you would have something which is this one, which I think most of the time we are going to utilize. So since I am in the agent, for agent there are different properties, right? Same like UiPath, while I am working on activities, I have different properties. So here also you have different properties, right? So this agent are the properties which you can click on this properties panel and you will get that setting. Okay. If I go back to an RPA workflow, you would see that these settings are different, right? And these options are actually changing, right? Now the other option here it is, which is the open the run output. When you have triggered it, what is the output? So that is the output, and this is nothing but the watch panel, right? During the debugging, we tag or we pin some of the variable and we see, right, when this variable is changing. The debugging concept, the watch panel, this is your watch panel. If you go to any other type of project inside a solution for agent, depending on the project, you might have more or less option, right? So here you can see that I have the properties panel, right? I have the output panel, but I do not have the watch panel. Rather, I have two other things. One is the health score, because this is an agentic solution. So for an agent, not an agentic solution, this is an agent. That's why I have something which is called health score, that how good is my agent. And then I have something which is a support of autopilot, right? So depending on the project which you have selected, these option would differ. Okay. Now on this once this is, you are done designing all of that, at the top you also has an option which is the share. You can click on that and you can share this complete solution to someone else. Let's say this is, I am your senior developer, you want to submit it for review, you can click on share and it would be shared to me as well. Okay, here is something which is called submit as a template, same like I create templates. So let's say you have robotics enterprise framework or any other template, right? So you're working in a company, you're a COE lead, team lead, project manager, and you want to decide a template that all my future projects should go into this structure: dispatcher, performer, app, agent, agentic process. You define the template, you can submit this template as a template to your organization, and all your team members can utilize that as a starting point, so they don't have to do that homework again. So that also is a possibility by using this guy, which is called use as a template. Okay, so this was the overall screen of the solution builder. At the bottom you have something which is called pan mode, which is simply like when your workflow size grow, you can just click on that and you can pan on and off. This is the zoom in, this is the zoom out. You can set the percentage from here, you can minimize it, maximize it, depending on how you like the solution, right? This option is available here. And at the top you have this thing which will show that when exactly it was last saved, right? You might have noticed there is no control plus S button because this is working on cloud. So whatever you do is automatically getting saved. It is showing me that Mukesh, I have last saved it as this moment. You can maybe click on this, do something, right? And then you would notice that it is saved recently, right? So the time will change accordingly. Okay, now at the top of the screen you have something which is called feedback. If you found any issue, you can directly report that to UiPath. Then you have something which is called manage access, that is directly opening the roles that of the orchestrator, that who wants to have what access, right? The next to that is the manage access, which is the same like who is the automation developer, what access you want to give to people, that would be available here. This is your feedback and this is your notification, right? So that is all you need to know before you actually deep dive into going into a solution management, right? So I hope now you guys are comfortable with the interface and you know what information is available here, what information is available where, right? And yeah, that's pretty much I wanted to cover in this video. I just wanted to have a walkthrough of this complete thing so that when we actually design solution, we are aware of what exactly is where, right? So I'll really appreciate your feedback on the content. Any more questions, any more doubts, feel free to write me in the comments, or you can also drop me an email as well. Okay, so I'll appreciate your feedback on the content. Wrapping this video here. Thank you so much for watching and happy automation. Bye.